What is musical resolution? You might be thinking, like the resolution on my TV screen? Well, not exactly. Musical resolution is where an unstable sound like this leads to a more stable sound like this. There are many ways that composers lead us to hear musical resolutions in music, but today we are going to look at two ways that composers use resolutions: dissonance to consonance and minor to major. In our first example of resolution, dissonance to consonance, we have to define two terms: consonance and dissonance. Our friends Moana and Maui from the movie Moana are going to help us learn about them. In the story of Moana, she is on a mission to return the heart of Te Fiti. Moana represents consonance. At first, Maui tries to turn Moana away from her mission, but she persists anyways. Maui represents dissonance. If you remember near the end of the movie when Moana encounters Te Kā, she eventually needs the help of Maui to get the heart back to where it belongs. In music, composers sometimes like to combine consonance and dissonance together in their pieces. It seems like dissonance, like Maui near the beginning of Moana, is leading the listener away from parts or notes of consonance. However, just like in Moana, without dissonance's help, we would not satisfactorily get to the end of the piece, which ends in consonance. Let's look at an example of this concept in a piece called March by Alexander Terrapin. In this piece, the composer takes us on a journey from the beginning of the piece to the end. Let's listen to the first 8 measures of the piece. This is a happy little piece, but all that changes in the next 4 measures. This is not the happy and cheerful piece anymore. The part I played was dissonant. Some notes sound good or stable together, consonance, and some notes create tension and uncertainty when played together, dissonance. In music, the space between two different notes is called an interval. Intervals help make the piece sound more consonant or more dissonant. Here's a picture of a piano. There are letters on the different keys which sound like this: blue, C; gray, D; yellow, E; green, F; red, G; purple, A; B, black, and back to blue, C. Some intervals sound more consonant together, like blue C, yellow E, and red G. Also like the first part of March. While other intervals sound more dissonant, like blue C and black B, and like the middle part of March. Since the beginning of music, composers have been figuring out ways to use consonance and dissonance in their music. At one point in the medieval ages, some dissonant intervals were even banned from all music. Why do some dissonant intervals sound wrong to us, while consonant intervals sound better to our ears? Philip Ball discusses this, quote, innate preference for consonance over dissonance, end quote, in his article. To paraphrase his discovery, when two notes are played at a certain distance apart, the sound, called frequency, makes this interval sound rough or dislikable, like the C, blue, and B, black. You can read more about the article listed in a couple of slides. Some intervals and resolutions happen only on white keys. For example, C, blue, B, black, resolving or leading to C, blue, and C, blue. while other resolutions happen on white and black keys, like C blue and this black key that those blue arrows are pointing to, leading or resolving to C blue and red G. Now that we understand the idea of intervals, let's listen to the first 12 measures of March, listening again for those dissonant and consonant intervals. Fortunately for us, Terrapin does not end the piece hanging there. Here are the last 4 measures. Let's look at the second example of how composers can use resolution in their music, minor to major. For this example, we will be looking at the third movement of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart's Piano Sonata in G major. This work begins with a majestic opening. For the sake of time, I will not play you the entire piece. However, the first 2.5 pages reinforce the major key. What does reinforcing a key mean? Well, it means for the composition to include elements of the character, mood, certain notes. Like for me, the first part of the sonata kind of reminds me of a king riding a horse. In the middle of the sonata movement, however, something changes. A new idea has emerged. It is mysterious and the opposite of major. We call this minor. Maybe in our story of the king, he has fallen into the mud. If you are still confused about what it means to reinforce a key, this folk song might help. Mary Had a Little Lamb uses the notes that we learned about previously on the piano. On our slide to the left we see major, and it uses blue C, gray D, yellow E, and red G. However, if I substitute one of those notes, in this case yellow E, to that black key on the right that the arrow is pointing to, let's listen to how the song changes. Instead of just using the main notes in the first version called major, I played different notes which make the piece sound minor. To our ears, the minor version does not seem right. Just as the middle minor portion of the Mozart sonata made the piece seem tense and uncertain, playing or singing Mary Had a Little Lamb in that minor key was not expected and created instability. Let's go back to the Mozart sonata. After listening to the minor portion, we all feel like it needs to resolve or return back to the major part that we all know and love. And in Mozart's sonata, he returns back to that major main theme. Today, we have discovered 2 ways that composers use resolutions in their music: dissonance to consonance, like in Terrapin's March, and minor to major, like in Mozart's Piano Sonata. While these are only 2 of many ways that composers use resolution in music, I encourage you to listen critically and start identifying these and other resolutions in the music that you listen to every day.